Anyway, so thank you again. So as we move forward, women, capital, and real estate pathways to financial success. Um, our mission is we are the most visible women's trade association specializing in the housing economy. NAWB is dedicated to providing women the tools and opportunities for economic growth and expansion while advocating promoting women-owned businesses specialized in the housing economy. And a lot of people ask, what is the housing economy? It's not just about houses. This includes residential, commercial, industrial, and retail, with their associated industries such as CPAs, insurance, title, escrow, legal, contractors, lenders, and brokerages, just to name a few. NAWB is also the only third-party industry-specific certifier of women-owned businesses and minority women-owned businesses specialized in the housing economy. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. Also we'd like to talk about is a widespread presence. We are in Washington, D.C., which is really a huge advocate for what we're doing within the industry. And the reason it's so important to have a space and a voice in Washington, D.C., as we all know, is that legislative and things that come out of there, but also to have a foot on the ground outside of D.C. So we consult with the Office of Minority and Women Inclusion, and they're not a hotel, the Omnis. We also consult with the U.S. Small Business Administration, the National Women Business Council, and other organizations. So let's go back to the Office of Minority Women Inclusion. They were actually formed by the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act of 2010. There's a section called 342 that they were created by, and they are within certain federal agencies. Some of these agencies include the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, better known as the FDIC, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, better known as FHFA, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, that we all start hearing a lot about now, and the Federal Reserve Banks. The purpose of the Omni is to improve diversity in the management, employment, and business activities within these respective agencies. We all know about the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA. They're an independent agency of the federal government to aid, counsel, assist, and protect the interests of small business concerns. And then the other one that I want to talk about is the NWBC. They are the National Women Business Council. They are a nonpartisan federal advisory council created to serve as an independent source of advice and counsel to the President, Congress, and the U.S. Small Business Administration on economic issues of importance to women and business owners. Their website is nwbc.gov. And why it's so important, and we'll go through it a little bit later, is that everything that we're championing for, on behalf of women, we talk to them, and we want to make sure that it's out there for the voice of you. We also act as a resource base between members in government contracting, new business opportunities, marketing, and business training, hence the Irvine Chamber of Commerce. And again, thank you very much for having us. So a little background about women-owned businesses. As of 2014, there are nearly 9.1 million women-owned business enterprises out there. Over the 1997 to 2014 period, there have been a net increase of 591 women-owned firms each day. If you put that into retrospect, that is an incredible amount of growth of what we're having. But there's still room to grow because we are feeding that nation, on our nation, on how to encourage more employment and not relying on bigger companies and to creating our own entrepreneurial skills. Then also the minority women-owned businesses, which is NWOB. Firms owned by women of color account for 1 in 3, 32% of women-owned firms in the United States. Now, I'd like everyone to look at the webinar that we have on our screen, and you can see all the sources are from American Express Open. Why that is so important is the fact is that at current time, the Federal Registry does not track women-owned businesses. Those are created and tracked by other independent sources. So that's very important to keep that in perspective when we're going out and champion for women and working for entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses, that we go out there and help that environment to make sure that we are growing that within the federal government space, that we want to see that and have it grow. Okay, so as we go through that, it is important to note with these stats that are out there that in the last 3 years, we've been helping to get that implemented to make that sure it's going. So moving on, contracting opportunities. contracting opportunities aren't solely for large companies. You think about the big companies like, say, IBM or FedEx or anything that's out there like Walmart, Coldwell Banker, whether it be in real estate, the Citibank or Citicorp or Wells Fargo, things like that. You have to look at small opportunities for yourself. So when we go back to contract opportunities, aren't solely for large companies. They're obtainable for any size and form from several sources, not just the government. Contracts can be as low as $5,000 or as high as billions of dollars. Did you know that you can go out and work for a company or ask to be part of a vendor network of any company out there, and they can go actually literally have a credit card on file and say, here's a contract for you, but they have to know about you and know where to get you. And we're going to talk more about that a little bit later on. Then there's specific opportunities for minority, women, HUBZone, veteran, and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. And we want to highlight a little bit about that. Those 5 specific areas are what the federal government looks at. So again, that's minority-owned, women-owned, HUBZone. A lot of people don't understand what a HUBZone is, and it's a very small segment. But what that is that your place of employment has to be physically located in a HUBZone that's set up for underutilized and underrepresented in that area. And then also 35% of the employees must be based in a HUBZone based by zip codes. And believe it or not, as wonderful as Irvine is, they actually do have HUBZones that are actually allocated within Irvine. So don't be misled that it's not for everyone in a place that's maybe doesn't have a business opportunity or some place that is very highly successful like Irvine. And then we have veteran and disabled veteran, service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, and obviously that's being a service and go with it. And that's a great segment also to be into. So with that being said, you can also work for what we call contracting opportunities or request for bid. It's better known for as request for proposal and RFP. Okay, if you're looking for a vendor to do work for your business, you can also place an RFP. So enter B on their own, if we're looking for a contract opportunity and we're soliciting a bid for it, we can actually go out and request a request for a proposal, put out an RFP out there. And it can be for anything. So the idea is that let's say I wanted to have, for our organization, we needed to have a contract service to, right now we actually have an opportunity out there that we need someone to provide credit reports, do civil, criminal, and background checks on vendor networks. We would put out a request for a proposal. You could actually bid on the request for a proposal, submit an application, which is basically what it is, but a format that's very specific, send it in to us, and then we would review it and we would allocate whether we bid for you. So it goes both ways, okay? And we're not a government agency. Then also, small companies from small to large use this vehicle to get competitive bids. Utility companies, cities like the Irvine Chamber of Commerce maybe, counties and state, all look for vendors to supply products and services. So make sure when you're out there looking for business opportunities that you're not just thinking of the federal government, you're thinking of just in your own backyard, which is like here in the city. So whether you're nationally in New York or Dallas or wherever you're located right now, that our listeners actually champion to those cities that they're in, the counties they're in, the state they're in, and everything, and also the federal government obviously is the biggest employment in the United States, employer, excuse me. So contracts. Normally your small contracts we talked about can be approved immediately and paid with a company credit card. But buying supplies or service overrun are some very examples that go with that. The smaller the contract dollar amount, normally the easier to approve and get signed off. So let's say you're an entrepreneur and you're a one-lady show. And you're like, okay, well, I can't bid on this. I don't have the resources to do that. The smaller the contract, the less competition because the amount of time and energy goes into that, the bigger companies don't want to bid it. So that's where you want to start. You want to start on your $5,000 and $25,000 opportunities versus in trying to go for the $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 contracts. So keep that in mind when you're out there looking at these contract opportunities. As we're moving on to the resource government entities. Entities such as the FDIC, CFPB, OCC, and FHA that we earlier described each have their own Office of Minority and Women Inclusion that is responsible for all matters related to diversity in management, employment, and business activities. So let's say, for example, they have to make sure that in upper management that they have enough minority and women is what the classification is, in their employment that they're doing, and the vendor networks that they're out reaching out to. They're having huge outreach programs. So if you work in any capacity, IT, supplying paper, supplying real estate services, supplying training, any kind of mentoring, those are all avenues that they have out there. These entities have procurement and contracting opportunities designed for the fair inclusion of minorities, women, minority-owned, and women-owned businesses. So resources for these contracting and procurement opportunities are available on each entity's websites, waiting for women-owned businesses to utilize. And I'm very passionate about this piece right here. We were back there in D.C. just a month ago, and they were having outreach programs specifically for women, wanting more women to engage in the business opportunities that they have out there. So they are there connected. They're waiting for you to call them, talk to them, walk you through the program, and get you to bid on their contracts that they have available for it. Do not be shy of the government. So I've listed here the actual links to the government contracting opportunities that we talked about, the FDIC. It's www.fdic.gov, and it goes through about diversity, MWOP, and the index profile to go with the CFPB. It's called consumerfinance.gov, again, the Omni opportunities, and the OCC, and it has its OCC.gov about who they are in their careers, and then the FHFA. Now, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which is the FHFA, they are the ones that control Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're the GSEs, the General Sponsored Enterprises. Now, why that's so important is remember that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the ones that control majority of all the loans on the back-end insurance for the housing. So when you go to buy a house and you go and buy anything that has to do in the conforming market, they're the ones that are involved in that, and that is the biggest piece of pie. So when you're dealing with real estate, so whatever capacity you're in real estate, when we're talking about insurance, if you sell an insurance, if you're a contractor, if you're a CPA, make sure you know where they're coming from in their business opportunities, okay? Moving on, we have, also, any questions as we're going through? There's a chat room on the right-hand side. So if you go to the very bottom, there's a little square box, and it has a little balloon around it. You're welcome to submit questions to me, and we can go and answer those questions because you are muted right now. Or you can have live questions at the end of the webinar that we have going on. Business opportunities for capital growth. This one is definitely a shocker that we like to present a lot. And it says, I could read it verbatim, it says, set up a nonprofit to help create your own inventory. The federal government provides grants so you can allocate home ownership and boost your capital growth. So the idea is that with the 2007-2008 economic change that we had, they've set out numerous grant programs out there that are out there to help the local economy to get kick-started again in a variety of different ways. And one of them was the federal grants that they offer and state grants that are out there. And they can range as high as $2, $3, $4 million. That is something very viable for everyone to go out there and champion to get one of those contracts. And the idea is, yes, they are nonprofits. Well, there is where SCORE comes in. SCORE can actually go out and set up a nonprofit and teach you how to, actually teach you how to do it for $60. Enter B about 4 years ago actually went out and created our nonprofit foundation, Enter B Foundation. And for $60, we attended one of the classes. It was a 3-hour class. And we wrote our own nonprofit, submitted to the state of California, and were approved first time out. How incredible that is. It's not that you have to go spend $2,000 and $5,000 and $10,000 to have someone set up your nonprofit. You can do it on your own home. You can do it in a small business and create that opportunity for the nonprofit. From there, you can then go out and depending on what your avenue is for business opportunities, you can actually create your own enterprise such that, let's say, for example, you're in the actual brokerage side or lending side. You get up that nonprofit. You go in there and say, I can help my community. I live in this area that I want to get first-time home buyers in a home. I want to make sure that they're taken care of. I want to make sure they have all the access and tools and opportunities to get into that home. You have opportunities to buy properties quicker and faster than the normal public has. You then rehab those houses. You need to sell them. You need to have lenders and vendors and everyone that comes into it. And with that being said, you then can create opportunities not only for the people that work with you, but give back to that community. Make sure that they're living in a beautiful home, that you're rehabbing that neighborhood, that you're revitalizing that community, and you're putting money back into that community by giving jobs to the people that work in that community. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. And then you're not relying on those business opportunities from other people. You're creating your own inventory, no matter what capacity you are in the housing economy, that continuum we talked about earlier. It's a big deal. So this is a huge slide, and you really need to research that and go through it. So what we did is that on the bottom here, you'll see that there's a www.grants.gov. We highlighted one there that you can click on and go directly to it that's showing that they're giving $2 or $3 million out for a specific federal grant right then. It's live now, and it's going to be awarded in February. That's something you can physically bid on right now. So there are hundreds of these that are out there across the nation. Again, not just for the federal government, for state funded programs. And sometimes we find some county-wise too. So make sure you really look at that slide in depth to go with that. Okay, the next one. A really easy business plan outline. This is just a real summary. There's great classes out there. We're just going to breeze through this like in a few seconds. Executive summary, your company description, your market analysis, organization and management, funding requests, financial projections, operations, marketing, sales, appendix. How do you make your business plan stand out? That is all being conducted by the SBA, SCORE, SBDC, and WBC. And we'll get into that a little bit later here on the program real quick. On those, they'll set you that up. That whole entire business plan, they will help you create all of that almost for 100% free. Other than a few $10 or $15 or $50 classes that are very minor, we'll get that to where you're going and help you go through that program. It's absolutely incredible. So just want to touch that on real quickly. So moving forward, one of the things that we talked about earlier is to make your business stand out. How do you make your business stand out? And one of the things that we have found, because being a woman, being in the business, this will be my 25th year that I've been working in the housing industry as a broker owner and champion for women vendors and for women employment, is to get certified. And the certification process is not a new thing, but it's really been taken off the last year and a half as being out there and being part of the system. So one of the things is that we talked about the five different federal agencies, five federal recognitions as far as the classifications that are out there. One of the things is tools designed to complement your overall approach to marketing your business. Eligibility for a women-owned business, which is a WOB, and a minority women-owned business called MWOB, contracting opportunities. And when we talk about that is that they're actually, and we'll talk a little bit more, is set-asides, contracts that only a women-owned business can bid on, or a minority women-owned business. And then there's all different kind of classifications up and down. So those then limit the number of people who can respond. So if I'm a women-owned business and I'm competing with the good old track out there, I am the only one who actually bid on that property because I'm a women-owned business, and only women-owned businesses if it's set aside strictly for women-owned businesses. And we are in the process of passing a lot of rules and a lot of legislation about that to make sure that the women-owned businesses get their fair share out there. So very, very important. The third thing is that NAWB member used her various women. So what we want to talk about here is use her various women certifications and or designations to appeal to government contracts. So I want to take an example to give you kind of a shock treatment how this goes. We had a lady, one of our members, about, I'm going to say about 9 years ago now. She went out and she was working and she was doing, foreclosures and short sales and doing all different kinds of things in the real estate market. And, she was seeing that there was some shift change and things like that. And she got into it and she's doing very well. Obviously, the market was doing really well for REOs back in the day. And she decided, she says, I want to get my certification. So she got all her certifications, her 8A, 8M, and women-owned business and things like that. And she went to the federal government, and she's like, okay, I want some jobs. I need some contracting. Like this, get out of it. So she we called throw to bone. She got an $88,000 contracting for cutting grass. I remember we talked about the smaller contracts, less people want to bid on those. So she got an $88,000 job cutting grass. That $88,000 job cutting grass, She took her honed skills on selling properties and turned it into a $1.9 million contract in 2 years. Now, every one of us would love to have that kind of opportunity. She then took that $1.9 million contract and turned it into a $9.4 million contract, and she's doing facility maintenance. And facility maintenance, we're talking about just doing plumbing and doing electrical. She does not have a general contracting degree or license. She does not have an electrical and plumbing degree. All her subs that work with under her actually do that. So the moral of the story is that she bid it on a low-price contract, cutting grass. She personally does not cut any of the grass. She hires vendors who cut the grass. She then turns around and she takes the paperwork of filing the report, making sure the work's done, pays the contractor, submits the report, and she gets a report card, what they call a contracting officer report, and says that she did a great job. She takes that certificate saying she did a great job, and she applies it like her scorecard and keeps growing. So now she has multiple contracts that are multi-million dollars doing something that she never started out to do because she started in real estate and took her skill set on how to negotiate, took her skill set on how to rehab a house, took her skill set on how to do business and payroll and accounting because of her business structure, and now she's running a multi-million dollar company. It can happen to anyone. They just have to know and where to dig. And hopefully this seminar or webinar will help you highlight those areas to kind of cut through that stuff and go through it. So the idea is that happened with the government level, like I said, and she can take that and go through all different kind of programs. It's not, again, just for the federal government. Your city, county officials right now are looking for avenues for you to be as a minority-owned and women-owned business. So make sure that you go out there and champion to get to know who you are. How are they going to know, let's say you're ABC company, how are they going to know on ABC company that you're actually a woman-owned or a minority-owned company? We want to know about if you're a veteran or service-disabled veteran or in a hub zone. That marketing has to go for your certification. So we're going to go through a little bit because we are a women-owned industry. We're going our organization requirements for a women-owned small business. Okay, that's the SBA requirements. Small being S. Okay, so SBA requirements: firm must be at least 51% owned and controlled by one or more women, and primarily managed by one or more women. Okay, so women must be U.S. citizens, and firm must be small in accordance with the SBA size standards for that industry. What they do with those size standards for the industry is they turn around and they have what are called the NAICS codes, okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about that for the size. A size that's small can be anywhere from 100 employees to, believe it or not, 1,500 employees, still being small. And it can be as high as $37 million, can still be a small company. Reason is some of the classifications that deal with building bridges, doing very big labor, some things are very high end, and to us that but in the scheme of things of building a bridge, a $37 million contract is nothing. So that's where it's small. So you have to look at your NAICS codes and, like I said, go a little bit more into that. As far as NADB requirements, business must be 51% or more women-owned, managed, and operated. Women business owners must be a U.S. citizen or legal resident alien, and they must be technical expertise in the housing economy. We only certify women in the housing economy. So if you own a beauty salon or a furniture store, we don't certify you. So anyway, moving forward, the SBA WOSB federal contract program. And what they do is it authorizes contracting officers to set aside certain federal contracts for eligible certified women-owned small businesses and economically disadvantaged women-owned small businesses, hence the EDWOSB, like the acronyms, right? Then what happens is with the SBA, they have identified 83 four-digit North American industry classification systems, and the NAICS codes I was talking about, where WOSBs are underrepresented or substantially underrepresented. And that is so important because within that group of NAICS codes that we're talking about, it actually has, we have identified that there's 333 industry NAICS codes with the sub-NAICS codes, okay, that are under the four. Notice how these have 6 digits versus in 4 digits. Those are the industries that they are hurting. They're asking, they're pleading. They need more women to go out there and bid on these specific NAICS codes. So we highlight a few of them. These are only 4 of them, but of the 33 that are women in housing: plumbing, heating, air conditioning, flooring contractors, interior design services, carpet, upholstery, and cleaning services. Those, like I said, are just 4 of the 333 industry NAICS codes that are out there. So of those being said, if you look at it, the first 4 digits are the major field, and the last 2 are then the subfields that are underneath it. So the idea is that when women are out there and creating their niches and their entrepreneurial skills and what they want to become out there, whether they're bidding on, go out there and look for these. We actually in our magazine have labeled all 333 industry NAICS codes, so you can go out there and not have to spend the time and dissect them and go through it. So, but it's so important that think outside the box of the awareness opportunities that are out there. Okay, so moving on, from small firm to corporate giant, what do FedEx, Nike, Staples, and Ben & Jerry have in common? The answer: they all began as small firms and grew their business empires with the help of SBA financing. If you take a step back and you look at that and you think of FedEx, would you ever believe that they went and got a small business loan of $100,000 or $500,000 for Nike and Staples and Ben & Jerry to actually grow their business to be Goliaths that they are today? That's where this goes. And the SBA financing resources can help jumpstart your business. And a lot of people look at, well, this is only for federal contracting opportunities. It's only for, to deal with the government. It's not. It's for you, whether you're an independent or not. I'm getting ahead of myself on the next slide here. We work very closely with them, okay? The NARB works closely with the SBA at a national and local level. They have a lot of free online training classes, chat sessions, workshops, and local assistance. And the local assistants are their arms. And a lot of people don't know what the SCORE is. And SCORE is, in layman terms, the retired executives from Goldman Sachs, all those big companies, the Fortune 500 companies, that when they retire, they want to come help do business with you. They want to reach back to the local community where they're at. And they love being mentors. They love being teachers. They love being, when I was going to college 30 years ago, Procter & Gamble, one of the head executives there, actually came and taught a night class just because he loved it. He was making $5 million a year. He didn't need to do it, but he came in and talked because he wanted to have a one-on-one conversation, and people didn't know who he really was. Once we found out, we're like, oh my gosh. But just to have that one-on-one personal contact was unbelievable, okay? So that's who SCORE is, okay? Women's Business Center. They're out there. There's 110 of those across the nation. They're not just for women. They're specifically set up to have tailoring stuff for women, but they'll help men too. But the idea is that they're out there to tailor their and support systems they have out there across the nation. The Small Business Development Center, better known as SBDC, they're to show you how to set up a business for free. They're there to help you instead of paying all these thousands of dollars for all these different corporations, how to do it, whatever. So once you get set up, you can always change it. But the idea is doing your homework, and that's what the SBADC is for, is to do your homework right so you cut through the red tape and making sure its protocol is there. And then the SBA, obviously, district offices that they have across the nation. Now, here where I'm located, they have in our corporate office here for NARB, as they're located in the Santa Ana district office, they actually control Santa Ana, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. So they're huge areas that they cover. So you go to the SBA office first, and depending on your situation, what you need guidance in, assistance for, they're your quarterback. They're the ones who'll say, okay, yes, you should go talk to SOAR, you should talk to the Women's Business Council, you should talk to the SBDC, or an auxiliary to go with it. They are your first point of contact, the SBA, and go through it. And they have a huge mission this year to double their outreach and what they're doing and how they're doing it. So very, very important that you go out and connect to them. And I have some stats here. As far as the scores, volunteer mentors and small business clients, they have resulted in 38,630 new businesses started and 67,319 new jobs created in the United States because of them. That's pretty incredible. So I just want, and that was in 2013. So that's just really great statistic to go with it. So with the SBA loans, commercial loans structured through the SBA requirements, very similar to a VA or FHA home loan. So when you go out and you go say, I'm going to go get an FHA loan, or I'm going to go out and get a VA, obviously if you're a veteran to get a loan like that, the SBA physically doesn't give you the loan. They're the ones that insure the loan. So you're going to have someone else that's going to go out and give you, like the Wells Fargo, the Citibank, the Bank of America, or any of those. 400 lenders out right now that actually are approved to do SBA loans. Now, what can this loan be used for? We're all business professionals on the phone. Working capital, line of credit, inventory, expansion, renovation, and other general purposes. The reason I want to bring that up is that when we go through the system and how we look at our business model, we need to make sure what level we're on and how much we want to grow on that level, okay? So whether we want to have an assistant, we have marketing capital for media publication, let's say advertising, or we just need that extra help for that $25,000 loan. We'll get into that in a little minute. So there's two different types. There's the 7A, used for most business purposes, or the CDC 504 for acquiring fixed asset, most frequently owner-occupied commercial real estate, okay? Which is, and we're not here to cover the SBA too in depth, but I just want to highlight that for you, okay? So the idea is that when we're dealing with that kind of avenue, I want to go back a little bit real quick and talk about the fact that if you are an independent contractor and you're still working for a brokerage and you're still working for a major corporation, you still file your taxes separately and you're not W-2, yes, you can still get an SBA loan. You don't have to be the business owner under the brokerage or under the corporation. You just have to be the business owner of your own taxes that you're returning, okay? So as an independent who gets a 1099, let's say, as a real estate agent, that's a big difference. So keep that in mind that's out there, okay? So anyway, when we're talking about bringing awareness of your business, connect with the federal or local governments. You can offer a form of community service, and in turn, federal or local governments will learn about your business. Let's take a step back and look at that. When you offer a form of community service, so you go in, let's say, to an SBA office or a Chamber of Commerce or go into some avenue out there, you want to let them know what you do. They are people. They are not corporate machines that are robots. You get to know that person, develop a relationship with that person. So when someone walks in and you talk to that person and say, hi, I'm Desiree. I'm here to talk to you. I have this great organization. I love to get to know you, what you do, and bring in businesses. And when they personally need to talk or talk about something, I know someone who does what you do. Oh, you do this. And that's how that relationship grows. They need to have that communication to go with it. And if you tell them about you, they're going to go, oh, this organization's over here. Why don't we network it? That's all about that relationship. So by establishing your presence, you can become memorable to federal and or local governments. This can lead to referrals and reciprocated help. And the way that we like to establish it, it's not something you walk in and say, oh, hi, I know you. Okay, now what are you going to do for me? It's about 2 years to build a quality, good relationship with any federal agency out there and what is going to happen because their job depends on how well they refer you and what they take out of you. So the idea is that when you're going talking to someone, you've got to make sure that they make you look good. When's the last time you referred someone out there and you said, oh, they did a great job, you should see the workmanship they did, and that person doesn't show up or they don't do the job correctly or the service is not good? It's a bad reflection on you. So to have that relationship, to keep it growing, they want to make sure that that continues and that you're around the block 6 months from now, a year now. And they can say, you know what, the last couple of years I've been working with them, I love them, and they did an exceptional job, and they're great. So let me put my name on the line to go with it, okay? So that's why it's very, very important, okay? So the next thing, okay, so what we like to talk about as far as our resources and what we are and who we are, as far as Women in Housing Financial Fitness Roadshow, one of the things I'd like to talk about real quickly is that we have a national roadshow is that we're going around and bringing awareness opportunities and access like this webinar. What we're doing is much more in depth. It's about a 3.5 hour roadshow that we put together, we have a representative from the SBA, from SCORE, from the SBDC, and we try to get a local authoritarian that's there, whether it be from the city, whether it be from some organization within the housing economies of the continuum that's out there, and we put it together, and we invite all the women to come and attend that are locally there. Members get to come for free. Otherwise, it's a $20. Just make sure for allocation that you come and keep the spot. We found that a lot of times free, not everyone shows up, so we have a little minimum. That's why SCORE, just be honest, the SCORE and SBA and everyone else charges a minimum fee sometimes to make sure they show up and come and reserve the space. But the idea is that traveling roadshow is to make sure that we can reach and connect on a local basis to help you on a community. Because what happens, let's say, in Minnesota is not going to be the same thing that happens in New York versus the same thing that happens in Barstow, California. They're all different. So we tailor them to the actual community that we're talking about. Second thing is our NADRB magazine. Please take a moment to look at it. We are there for the resources for the women in housing. Again, it's a huge spectrum and halo net that we go. We like to think that we are exceptional. We've been up for several awards this year, so we're waiting to hear back from them. The quality content, the beauty of what the magazine looks at, and as we offer a support outreach for this, and this magazine for our members is free and also is for the allocation that gets done to it. So it has a huge respect and content of what we deliver to the back door, we like to call it, versus the front door. We get that information out like the Omnis we're talking about. The third thing is that our inaugural conference that we just had. We made history with that, and the reason I want to bring this up is a very important thing is that we brought together D.C. to California. Well, a lot of people bring D.C. to California. We brought the actual author, though, of Congressman Maxine Waters, actually is the author of the Dodd-Frank Section 342. We brought the directors from some of the Omnis out here. We also had the regulated entities, Fannie and Freddie, that we just spoke about, and several of the banks out here, and we put them all in one roof. And it was so important because they got to see how legislation started, the woman who created it, what's the impact that it was having on the banks, and the dialogue that happened on a very informal but formal basis, that they actually got to talk not on the legislation side, but how's it working? What's going on? Where can we go with it? What can we do to make it better? And actually the women working in the profession were there to actually comment on it. It was so incredible. Then we had the SBA contractors there. We had the contracting office there. So you could get to understand why the ladies here on the call, that might be a one lady show, or might be 10 or 20, or want to branch out from a corporation they work for and start their own business, how they could successfully branch out immediately and not worry about all the fear of starting their own business. Instead of all that money you're paying to your current employer or overhead that you have it, you can do it on a small budget and make it right and not worry about falling off the truck and not going through it. So it's incredible how we go with it. So the collaborative efforts with multiple women's organizations, federal agencies like the Irvine Chamber of Commerce, and other countless regulated entities and agencies, we're here to help you for that sources to go with it. And having seminars and webinars like the Irvine Chamber of Commerce right now are just unbelievable. We all have to take the time and go through it and listen to them. So as far as our program that goes with it, to wrap up here, again, questions. Does anyone have any questions? Please let us go. We'll open it up. Our membership, we keep you up to date on the pressing topics in the housing economy, discounts on educational seminars and webinars, business referrals, access to contract and job opportunities via our members-only group, and be part of the ongoing advocacy for the advancement and promotion of women in the housing economy. We're here to make sure that women count in the Federal Registry and get them on the docket for the federal government so we can be counted and not rely on third parties. So we're here to champion for you. Any questions, please email us at info@NADRB.com for any questions or want to come by our office. Our phone number is 949-559-9800, or you can write or visit us at 34 Executive Park, Suite 260, Irvine, California, 92614, or follow us at NADRB on Twitter, connect with us, obviously on NADRB on LinkedIn, like us on Facebook, and visit us at NADRB.com. And again, I want to thank the Irvine Chamber of Commerce for kindly hosting this free webinar. And please visit, as you saw, www.irvinechamber.com to learn about the many business resources they have to offer regarding economic development on both a global and local level.
And I'd like to lead off, Desiree. It's clear that your program gives women who are involved in the real estate industry a lot of options that they may not have thought of. You're also, it seems to me, implying that women who are running their businesses can create a real estate component that didn't exist before. What might you suggest as the exact first step for someone, a woman who's a small business owner and wants to take advantage of some of this, but she's doing something that's completely different than the field of real estate and yet still wants to take advantage of the programs? What would you suggest as her exact first step?
A couple things. There's no real exact and an excellent question. Like for example, we have women that negotiate or that are mentors. And instead of going out and mentoring for real estate, they'll go out and just be a tutor in a government agency or a different kind of agency that is out there. And what they do is that they have to set up a separate I want to say corporation, but line of work that they can go to the SBA and talk to them first, or connect to an organization like ourselves. Because what's happening is that when you go out, is they get you thinking outside the box. And if you don't connect to a lot, watching our calls online are free. Going and visit in person and get to know their information. Do your homework. Do your research on what organizations are out there that might be thoughtful and step outside that box. So if you go to a city, like for example, we hosted the event in the city of Long Beach. And we physically went there, and we had a contracting officer came and talked, and the opportunities that are there that to just say, oh, I can bid on this. You have to think of what is the component they actually do. So when I talked about the grass cutting, and you talk about negotiations, and you talk about being a teacher, if you're sitting in front of a homeowner and you're negotiating a contract with them or negotiating with a bank, you can actually go into that banking institution and actually become a coach for those people that are in there because you're coaching a transaction. Think of that one deal. So when you talk about what is the very first step, find out what component of real estate or the housing continuum that they love, and then from there, with that narrow down that focus of that component is, who else could use that outside of the real estate world? And that's where by going to an organization like ourselves or going to the SBA is so invaluable to go talk to them and find out where it's at.
Okay, so Desiree, thank you so much for the presentation this week. This recording will be available for anyone who wants to review it later. It will be on the Irvine Builds Businesses website.
Thank you, Robert.